Greetings, students. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking a look at misconceptions that some folks have about special education. So these are some common myths or misconceptions that the general public has, or maybe some colleagues or friends of yours even, and then what the facts are. First misconception I want to point out to you is that some people feel that if regular classroom teachers did their job well enough, that special education wouldn't be necessary for students. And we know that that's not true. The fact is that our regular or our typically developing children fall within a range of normal development. And that's who our curriculum is geared toward, those children that have typical development. And that's not to say that we don't differentiate for students who need the curriculum taught in a different way. But we also know that even if a classroom teacher is doing the best job that he or she can do, there are people who have disabilities that go beyond the differentiation, that need something above and beyond, that need extra support. Because remember, the categories of disabilities are not just children with learning disabilities. Now that's 51% of kids that have disabilities fall within that category. And many times that's the group that comes to mind. But that also means students who have intellectual disabilities, students who have autism, students who are blind. They obviously need a different curriculum. Students who have hearing loss. So we know that there are needs that cannot be met by the regular educator. The second misconception is that special educators present a watered down curriculum and they have lower expectations. And not maybe special educators per se, but the whole concept of it's special education, and that we are not giving our students who meet those criteria to receive special education the full strength of the curriculum, and that we have lower expectations for them. Well, you should know that's not true based upon what I've shared with you in terms of expectations. What we do know is that we have to help children who have learning needs that meet the criteria for disabilities and that have an IEP. We have to help them more to learn the material. Sometimes it's more repetitions, sometimes it's presented a different way, but we have to help them to meet the expectations of the curriculum. And we also know students that we've talked about this semester may have the need to have a modified curriculum. While they receive the general education curriculum, those students also will be meeting the basic essential questions that all students are required to meet. But they don't need to know the details. Doesn't mean we're watering down the curriculum. It means we're meeting the students' needs. And if we don't have high expectations for those students that have special needs, then there's an inherent problem with that, because we know the literature shows us that we have to have high expectations for our students in order for them to perform well. This I've heard a lot, and probably you have too, is that special education is basically unfair. Because some students get special privileges, they get door-to-door bus services, they get a special helper in the classroom, and other students don't receive that kind of help, so it's really not fair. So, your response to that, because you will be a special educator, can be, life's not fair. And what we know about fairness is it doesn't mean we treat all students the same. I know families who have numerous children in them, and those parents would tell me that sometimes one child needs more help than another. One child needs more support than another. Does that mean that the parents are not being fair to the other children? No. The parents understand that they have to give the support and the help where it's needed. And I think that's how we have to look at the question of fairness too. Some people need more help. Some people need a different type of help or a different type of instruction in order to be successful in their learning. Special education is required for all students with disabilities, and that's our number 4 misconception, because we know that that's not true. The purpose is to help students with disabilities learn all they can in school, and so that they can be productive citizens and function in society when they finish school. So that's really what the purpose is. So some students will not need special instruction. Some students might need support in a different way, but they might be fine in the general education and they don't require specialized instruction. So we have to keep that into account too, is that even though a child may have a disability, that child may not in fact need specially designed instruction. I think this misconception is one that many parents hold, is that they are fearful that if their child is placed in special education and given a label, that their child would not ever be able to leave special education services. And what we know to be true is that some children will never leave the support that's necessary for them to be successful in the school, and they will always need special education services. And some children will not. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. But there are children who do exit, and we know that that is true. There are some children that will exit services. When children have developmental disabilities, we know that those children do not have a cure. And we also know that the services are necessary to help them be successful in their education and in the general curriculum. And that's not a reflection of the teacher, and it's not a reflection of the parents. And I think it's important too, because parents have a misnomer. But, it's understanding which disabilities are developmental as well. And that's looking at that whole list of students that come to and what their disabilities are. 6th misconception that I'd like to share with you is some people think that special education is just about teachers who are special educators being more patient, and tolerant of those who learn differently. And we know that it's more than that. We know that it is patience, but we also know that it's about the precision and explicitness um, that are essential for the instruction of those students. It has to be purposeful, it has to be intentional, it has to be well thought out, and for us to deliver that kind of instruction to every single child, um, one would say one would argue that could be very difficult to do. However, when we look at a child with an IEP, we know that they have demonstrated and have qualified for needs that require this exactness in their instruction because they are beyond the normal limits of learning, beyond what is typical. And the last misconception is that some people feel that special education is discriminatory and that we serve only ethnic minority students. And you will note the articles that you read for this semester regarding the overrepresentation of students from minority groups in special education. It's by proportion when we look at proportion. And that's true. But the fact is that 63% of all children who receive special education services are in fact white. They are Caucasian. So that's more than the majority. That's almost 2/3 of all students are Caucasian. But again, remembering that it's the disproportionate amount of students that are represented from some of the other ethnic groups. That would be the Hispanic and the African American group are identified much more often than a Caucasian student, and that's by proportion. And those are some of the misconceptions that I have found in my research. And what I'd like to ask you to do now is to respond to the assignment for this quick presentation on misconceptions, myths, and facts by listing at least one other misconception that you think exists in special education and what the fact is about that. And this could be something that other teachers have said, questions that maybe you have had yourself. And I'd like you to think about, what is that question? What is that other misconception that you've been thinking about special education, and now that you've had some classes in special education, you're starting to see that that's not true, that the facts present otherwise. So I'd like you to check that assignment out. It's written on your Blackboard page, and place your response in the Dropbox that is provided. I thank you for your time, for listening to some of the misconceptions that I was able to present to you. I hope you found them helpful, and I wish you all a good day.